there's a great example, and it's a story. Interestingly, I debated for the longest time if I was going to tell the story in TED, and it didn't make the cut, uh, because we want to keep a TED short, effective, and people hopefully will listen for that 15 minutes. So it didn't make the cut. So I'll share this with you now, exclusive content, Avi, just for this beautiful podcast. But I remember having this chat with this lady in one of the organizations I worked with, and this lady was incredible. She was a great leader. I'd in fact hired her into this organization, and she said to me, Mike, I quit. I resigned. I'd called her up and we were having this conversation. I said, can you tell me why you resigned? You had a great future here. You were well respected. You were loved. I could see incredible things happening for you where you were already a regional leader. I could see you becoming VP someday, very soon, in fact. What makes you quit? And she said to me, Michael, I mean, let's be honest, we don't share the same values as the company. So I said, what do you mean? She said, well, the values of this company and my values, they didn't really align. I said, no, I don't. I said, and I actually said, spare me the BS, because it was a BS check. And I said, let me start again. Did you have, it wasn't the company, right? You just had a bad leader, right? And she went, yeah. She just went, yeah. It was, and so it's the values of an individual. It's never the values of the organization. The organization is, I remember somebody in a leadership session, I'll never forget. He said, the organization's a table. Okay, it's a table. And yes, it has some values to it and that make it the organization, but it's the people. It's the people bringing their BS, their belief systems to work every day and operating out of that BS. That cause people to either stay or go. So a lot of the times I'll tell people, sure, yes, it's an organization. Look for organizations with great values. Look at what they're doing, but it's the leader you're interviewing with. So make your decisions based on that leader. Do you like what he's pitching? Do you like the dream he's selling you? Do you think that he's actually doing that? And there are ways to kind of find that out even at an interview stage. And if we make some mistakes, we make some mistakes and we move on. That's life. I would never encourage somebody to work for a toxic leader. So, going back to that point you mentioned, it's such a great point. Somebody asked me once, what can you share about toxic leaders? How will you tell them? I said, well, the talk is designed for anybody to check themselves first. So you can't always control everybody else's behavior, but you can control how you respond to it.
Once you change yourself, I noticed that other people change themselves as well. One of the people that we interviewed, actually the number 92, was Gary Ridge, the CEO of WD-40. And he said about toxic leaders, he said, if I find a toxic leader in my organization, I send him to the competition.
I love that. Yeah.
How do I combine my values and my belief system? What would you recommend to people to look in the connection between them?
I love that. I think the values are just things that actually values come from our belief systems. Because if we didn't believe a certain thing, then we wouldn't be behaving a certain way. And the values are often things that people get up and they behave a certain way, and that becomes an organization's values. If you'll find people talk about all this incredible, let's define the organization culture. And I say, no, culture is just when you wake up and you behave a certain way. That's your culture. It's as simple as that. Don't try to overcomplicate it. Don't try to codify it. How you get up and how you behave is your culture. And they say that stems from a set of values, but I believe it also, values and beliefs are not so different. When you believe something, you then start to make it, this is the way I operate, and that becomes a value. Why do I behave like this? Why do I operate this way? It's because I've believed this thing about myself. I don't believe I'm inspirational, so it doesn't become an inspirational. Inspiration is not a value. I believe people should be treated with respect, so respect becomes a value. Does that make sense? So I hope that's
make a lot of sense, and sometimes I will agree with you, sometimes I'm not, but what I'll do is I'll send a slide to you, because I had to define, we train a lot about values, so I had to define, and I was challenged by so many people about the difference between belief and values and so on. What I loved about your TED, and I just want to conclude the things that we've done here.
perfect.
I want to thank you for making us checking our BS. Is it belief system or is it the BS that we're thinking about? I love the fact that you told us to start with the heart and go to what feels right. I love the fact that you suggested to us to explore our feed instead of getting poisoned in one place where our body will produce cortisol and adrenaline, to go to a place where we could get some and see balance, because the world is not so bad after all. Not everything is bad, but if we believe CNN, we're going to be in trouble. If that you get. And I
Yeah.
love the fact that you want to check your words, and your words make worlds. And most of it, I loved your ending where you transform BS one more time when you say be the best of yourself.
Yes.
So knowing how busy you are and how many people you train and you move around, especially at this tough time of COVID, I want to really thank you, Mike, for your time, your generosity, your sharing. And I hope to be one more channel to reverberate your beautiful messages that could touch hearts of people at all walks of life, whether they're parents or they're workers or whatever. So thank you very much. And I can't wait to have the next one with the Proverbs 10 or 20 lessons by Michael for leadership. I think it's going to be even greater.
Well, we know who the book was written by. It was written by probably the first trillionaire to ever walk the planet, and they're talking about Jeff Bezos being the first trillionaire. I said, no, that's not true at all. We had trillionaires estimated by wealth, and King Solomon wrote the book of Proverbs, the first trillionaire in existence. So I think if we're gonna get some advice, let's take it from people that have been there and done that, right? And have built
There's
and
one
have built
advice
incredible organizations.
there's only one advice I wouldn't take from King Solomon. Don't have 1,000 wives.
Agree, agree, agree. Perfectly agree. But I love it, Avi. I want to thank you as well. Thank you for having me here. I really appreciate it. Thanks for the incredible questions, such insightful questions, and I hope it speaks to people. People resonate with it because who we're speaking to is people that need it. So thank you. Thanks for your time and for inviting me on this.
Thank you, Mike. And for you, the listener, I'm sure you're going to jump and watch the link below for Michael's TED Talk. And if you find it great, please share it with as many people as possible. Thank you, Mike.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Avi.
All right. So I end the